So before I get into the nitty-gritty of the product, who am I? My name's Byron Arnold and I'm Product Manager for Energizers here at Gallagher in Hamilton, New Zealand. As a Product Manager, my job's to liaise with customers, with dealers, find out what products people are wanting, what they're wanting to do with our current products, and then work with our R&D department, our engineers, to come up with new and exciting designs that make everyone happy. Just a bit of housekeeping. I don't need to tell you where the toilets are, but using the webinar software there is a questions form in the webinar, so please make yourself familiar with that, and if you just use that as I'm going through this presentation to ask questions, at the end I'll try and get through all or as many of the questions as I can to answer whatever you need to know about the products. My plan for the webinar is to go a little bit of a product overview, just a hands-on, what is the product, what can it do, what does it look like, a bit of background to the project, where we started from and what our goals were, and then a detailed look into some features kind of behind the scenes of the product that you don't necessarily see every day. And then some examples in the field, and lastly I'll finish up with hopefully some very easy questions and therefore some quick answers. So to make sure everyone's familiar with the software and what we're doing, I've got a poll that I'm about to send out. So I'll put this in front of you all. Have you already used an S10 or an S16 Energizer? So now you should see that in front of you, and you can click on either yes or no, or I have used in ways you can only imagine. And I'll let it run for right, very good. Now I think I can, oh no, there's still, I'm closing it now, so if you haven't voted, you're out. Close, and I think I can share that result with you. Sharing results. There you go. So most of the people that we've got here today have not used the S10 or S16, so that's good. That means I'm not preaching to the converted. I can convert you all. And no one's used it like I've used it. Alright, so I'll hide that and continue. Oh, here we go. So a bit of an overview of the product. I've got one here. I just wanted to take you through some of the key features quite quickly. Obviously you can see at a glance it's got a very easy to see on-off indicator, so you can tell if the product's on or off quite easily. It's got a flashing LED here that flashes green if the battery's okay, and red if the battery's going to need replacing, because the battery of course will only last maybe 3 to 5 years depending on the conditions that it's running in. The terminals are easy access on the front, and they're pretty self-explanatory how they work. And then the battery, unfortunately we can't, due to international shipping rules, ship with the battery connected to the Energizer. So customers have to undo this little thumb screw at the back and then open the product, and you'll see the battery is just inside there. And what we do to try and make it easier for the customers is we have one side of the battery already, so they just need to connect one side of the battery. Also you'll notice on the inside there we have the handy dandy lead sets, red and green, and so they're there included for the customer in the battery compartment. A pretty nifty feature with the Energizers is how to install them and how to install them. And what you'd quickly notice when looking at a product is underneath this star configuration, and that allows the product, as you can see in the image on screen, It allows it to sit on top of a steel post, either a Y post or a T post, and it can sit in different orientations so that it can face towards the sun. Now the big benefit with that is that you can install the Energizer in a fence line that's already constructed, and you don't have to go put in a post or a Y post for the Energizer, because it can sit on a post that's already in the fence line and be orientated correctly to face towards the sun. Another cool way of mounting it is with this here little device that we've made. Now this device clips on a post just like so and sits on the foot of the ring top post, and the back of the Energizer has a slot, you can see there, and that just simply slides down onto the mount, so the Energizer can now sit on the ground and hold it in the correct orientation facing the sun. The other even easier way to mount these is if you've got a post handy, is there's holes in the handle at the top that you can screw right through to mount it. And as you'll see how I'm holding it, the product's pretty small and it's got a convenient handle at the top which makes it pretty portable, and that's quite key. So a bit of background to how we came about developing this Energizer. Well, I'm showing here two previous products that we've got, the B11 and the S17 Energizer. And the B11 was a really good product, but if customers were using it with D-cell batteries, it'd only last a month and then they'd need to replace the batteries, and after a while replacing batteries got expensive. But the product was really small and that portability was something that customers loved. Then we've got the S17. Now this product has all the benefits that we want. It's a fully enclosed, all-in-one solar panel and a battery with an Energizer. But the problems we had with this is that it was a little bit too big for a lot of the things that customers wanted to do, and it wasn't quite as portable as what they wanted. The other problem we had with the S17 is it was designed to work really well for about 9 months, 8 months of the year, but it wouldn't work all year round because it didn't manage the battery that well. So we got into development, and while we were going through development, I'm showing here some concept images so you can see some of the thought process that we went through. A word that we used in development for this product was chuckable. We wanted the product to be, I guess, perceived to customers that it's going to be robust enough to live in the farm environment. If they accidentally drop it, it should be able to survive 1 or 2 knocks. And so we wanted to give an aesthetic with the product that would make it have that appeal, that it can survive the rough and ready farm life. The other thing, of course, is it's going to sit outside, always sit outside, so it's going to be subjected to some pretty hard rain and hail and other types of conditions, so it needs to be pretty water resistant. So a detailed look at how we've brought those demands into the product. What I've got here is, this is the most invisible part of the product, something that customers would never see, but innovation-wise it's one of the coolest things and something that gets us tech heads pretty excited. I'm showing a graph here with a red line, and the red line is what our products used to do and what some competitor products did. And that's worked very well for a few months of the year, but in the winter, where there's low levels of sunlight, the battery would go flat and the Energizer would turn off. Usually, and how we managed it, is the Energizer would turn on during the day and then not have enough power, so it would turn off at night. What I'm showing with the blue line is the battery management capacity of our new Energizers. This is the S10, the S16 and the S22. And just by managing the pulse rate a little bit in the shoulder seasons allows us to keep the battery capacity up, so then in those poor light winter days the Energizer can keep pulsing and keep stock control 12 months of the year. to this benefit. Not taking the battery below 30–40% significantly increases the reliability and the life of the battery. So where customers were maybe getting 2 to 3 years out of the battery, now they should be getting 3 to 5 years. Again, batteries are a fickle thing, and it depends on the environment and the temperatures that they're running in. I wanted to talk about, I said the product had to be tough, it had to be water resistant or environment protected. And so some of the things that we've done to make it, I guess, particularly protected from the environment. Here I'm showing you the front of a product, obviously. What I wanted to highlight here is that this switch is quite an innovation for us. It's a magnetic switch. That means there is no screw or hole going from the front of the product to the circuit board on the other side. So it's just a magnet that's coupling from the switch through to the circuit board. And obviously not having a hole means there's no path for water through there. Another big part of the reliability, it's a bit hard to show on the camera here, is this is a lip that comes across the back of the product here. And this lip means that when it's, there, normal orientation, the water should just flow down the back and won't get inside the product. So all of this is meaning that the product's designed to be pretty water resistant and protected from the elements, but it's not submersible. So the product can't be submerged in a pond or a trough. It will fill up with water. It's going to happen, and we've tried to protect as much as we can from that. So inside the product, it's got channels down the side of the circuit board. So if water does get into the circuit board area, it can channel the water out down the bottom. Again, the Energizer needs to be in the proper orientation. So it's got the channels so the water can flow out. And then what I'm showing in the picture that's on your screen, and I don't know if I can, the webcam's probably not good enough quality there, is the circuit board is fully dipped. It's submerged in this conformal coating material to give it the best possible protection that we could find, possible protection we could find from water. So if water does get on the circuit board, the components should be protected from it for a short while. So we've done everything we can to make sure that if water gets in the product, the circuit board's going to be protected, and then we've designed the enclosure to try and stop water getting in from the start. It's tough. This product needs to be, ready for the rugged farm environment. A horse owner might be carrying this along with some standards and a reel and a few other things and accidentally drop the Energizer from waist height onto concrete. It needs to easily survive that. So what we've done is we've designed the plastic with this thick surround of UV stabilized plastic to help protect the important parts of the product. The solar panel is not actually fixed in location. It's sprung, and it's a bit hard to show here, but that spring means that if the product is dropped or something similar, that it gives the panel that extra bit of movement to soften the impact. On top of all that, the solar panel is made from a toughened glass, so it's really pretty impervious to damage. The other thing we've done to try and help with the robustness is the battery case at the back is screwed on rather than clipped. We did a lot of testing with different clip mechanisms for the back, and we found that having the screw is the most reliable and tough way to have the battery case, the thumb screw, which allows people to undo it with a key or similar. Showing here is one of the tests that we do on the product, and this is a ball drop test, and I've got the ball here. It's a 0.5 kg steel ball. I'm not going to hit my head, and it's solid stuff. So we drop that from 1 meter, as you can see in the image, onto the Energizer, and it drops right onto the solar panel. And this is one of many tests that we do with the product. And we wanted to do it for a video to put online, and as things go with filming, we stuffed up filming multiple times, and we had to drop the ball on one solar panel umpteen times, and the product survived without any worries at all. It's very tough. Further to the ball drop test, we also do temperature testing in a chamber from minus 20 degrees up to 180 degrees. I've got an example here. So this product has been up to 180 degrees. You can see the melting that's taken place around the product. Now, unfortunately, the switch no longer work, but if I hook the Energizer up to a battery, it still goes. So it's been up to 180 degrees, it's melted. It's been to minus 40 degrees Celsius, and it still works. As you can see, I've got a lead here because we're not allowed to put the batteries that we use in at 180 degrees. That's a safety hazard. Actually, one other test that we've done is we do, of course, the drop test. So we drop the product from 1 metre onto concrete in 6 different orientations to make sure that nothing of the product breaks and that it continues to function as it should. And we wondered how far it would go, and this is off the record. So I took one of the products home, and I live in a 2-storied house, and I threw it out of the 2nd story of my house at home onto grass. Granted, it was onto grass, but I threw it out of the 2nd story of my home, and it survived. So we thought that was pretty cool, and we wanted to get a video of it, so set up a camera and did it again, videoed, and it survived a 2nd drop from 2 stories out onto grass. So the product's designed to be pretty tough. Some examples now of the Energizer in the field. This here is showing a fence line protecting a waterway, and you can see the fence line was already existing, and it is using steel star posts, and the farmer here is mounting the Energizer on top of the star post using the star configuration underneath to get the correct orientation to face the sun. Of course, in the northern hemisphere, that means you want to face the product south. These images here are showing, on the left, it's showing the S10 used for strip grazing in the field, using one of our ring top posts to hold the Energizer up off the grass and easily move it around the paddock as required. And the image on the right there is showing an S10 sitting again on a steel post and protecting some trees that are yet to be established. And this here, actually I just took this the other day, this is from my house, and this is protecting a garden from our dog. We were trying to get this garden going, and the dog keeps making a mess in the garden, so I put this quick fence around, and it's worked pretty well. Some of the uses that I see are going to be pretty popular for the Energizer is temporary horse containment. For lifestyle farmers, the product's so easy to use. So where the opportunity to use a mains Energizer and then have to run lead outs to your fence, yeah, mains is a bit cheaper and you can get a bit more power, but the convenience of using a solar all-in-one Energizer that can be installed, as I've shown, in so many different ways easily, means that a lot of lifestyle farmers who are wanting a fence maybe for 6 months to control a beef unit that they're finishing off, or maybe some pets for their children, means that it's a pretty appealing option. Protecting gardens, as I've shown, and strip grazing, protecting waterways, grazing crops, and another one is vineyards, or similar to vineyards is beehives. We've got quite a few customers around the world with beehives that are trying to protect them in the middle of a paddock from getting knocked over by animals. So a quick electric fence around them and an S10 or S16 Energizer is the perfect solution. So I'm going to do another quick poll before I finish up here. on what do you consider to be the main applications for the S10 and the S16 products in your area. And I'll just launch that. And you should be able to select multiple options there. Please select all that apply. And again, I've made a note that feel free to use the questions form to, I'll give you guys 30 seconds to get answers, and then I'll share the answers so you can see what other people feel. Of course, horse containment's covering everything from the daily use in the paddock to taking the Energizer and the horse float to shows and etc. Alright. Close that off. And I should be able to... There you go. So as you can see, most of you feel, I guess, agree that a real benefit of the Energizer will be for horse farmers, and then following that is quite popular with strip grazing. Okay, hide that. Wait for the screen to come back on live. Alright, so a bit of a summary. I've talked about mostly here the S10 and the S16 Energizer, but we've also got the S22, which is in the enclosure of the old S17. It is a little bit bigger, and that's allowed us to get a little bit more power, but what we've done with this product is we've put the smarts, that behind the scenes working that I talked about, inside here. So it's now no longer an 8-month Energizer, it's a 12-month Energizer, so it's going to work all around the year, and it's got that little bit of decision making inside it, so it can help protect the battery so you get the extra few seasons use out of the rechargeable battery that comes with the product. Now all of these Energizers come with an out-of-box 2-year warranty, but customers can register online for 3-year warranty, so it's pretty easy to register the product online, so it's really a 3-year warranty. And as you can see there, the specs of the product, they all perform pretty well. The future and where we're going. Here at Gallagher, we certainly see fully integrated solar energizers as a successful future pathway for electric fencing. It's so easy to set up, it's convenient, you can have the power wherever you need it, and now that we've got a little bit of smarts behind the scenes, the limitation that was a product that works very well in the winter months is being overcome. So we've got a 12-month Energizer that can control stock. So the S10, the S16, the S22, that's not the end. In fact, that's only the beginning for us, and we see plenty more potential in this arena, and we're certainly going to try and capitalize on that with more products in the future. Before I delve into the questions and answers, and I can see there's a few questions come through, fire more through if you want, I wanted to point out that we're doing a few webinars, a few of these webinar series. There's obviously today's, and then in a couple of weeks' time we were planning to do one on the I-Series Energizers. In that session I was going to take you through using the Energizer controller and how that can be used to control the Energizer, and a little bit about the features of the product system. And then on the 24th of May we're going to do another one of a topic yet to be determined. So our Gallagher Europe team are going to try and get feedback from you guys that are involved with this session, what subjects you want covered in that final webinar. Running these webinars is a really good way for us here in New Zealand to try and get information through to our European partners. So please fire through feedback or comments on what you want to get out of these sessions. We want to try and keep them pretty quick, so about 20 minutes plus questions and answers for the whole session, and so then you can get a little bit of product information and have the opportunity to ask the designers questions about the product and continue a little bit more knowledgeable. So that's pretty much all from me. I'm going to run through some of the questions that people have asked about the product. I don't know how long this may take, only a few minutes. The questions so far, they look pretty easy, but it may go on for a while. So thank you everyone for attending. And if you've got any other questions, feel free. My email should be as part of the screen that you saw at the login or as part of the comms as well. You've got your contacts at Gallagher Europe. So feel free to flick us through an email afterwards asking for questions that may come to you later on during the day. And hopefully you've got some information out of it that's been useful. So now I'm going to delve into the Q&A, and I may get a little bit sidetracked. What's the first one? The first question is, how many watts is the solar panel of the S16 and the S10? And it is the same panel. So the S10 and the S16 both use the same solar panel. It's a 1.5 watt monocrystalline panel. So it's a 1.5 watt. And the S10 just gives that, I guess it's got that little bit more power overhead, but the panel's really designed and capable for a S16 Energizer. So, next question. Should you load the battery in winter if you don't use it? So I guess that means should you have the battery connected to the Energizer in winter if you don't use it? It doesn't really matter. If you disconnect the battery, it is a little bit better, but the draw on the battery when connected and the Energizer is turned off is pretty minimal. The best thing that customers can do is leave the Energizer outside, and I know the reason not to is because they're worried it gets stolen, but the best thing that customers can do, leave the Energizer outside with the battery connected in the sun, and that way the Energizer will make sure that the battery stays charged all year round. The Energizer's ready to go when it's needed, and that's pretty easy. A battery that's stored at below 50% capacity, you are significantly reducing the life of the battery. So really you want to try and keep the battery topped up if you can. Next question. S10 and the S16 batteries are equal amp hours. Why? I guess the product is designed around the S16, so the battery is more than capable of the S16. It's similar to the solar panel, and there's not really a cost trade-off going to a smaller battery for an S10. And the other reason is we found it easier to supply one battery that serves both products. So one battery, the 6 volt, 4 amp hour, can be used to replace for either product. Does that answer your question, Davey? Please pop through another one if I'm not on that. Here's one. You mentioned the smart battery. If the battery does run lower due to less daylight, how fast will it pulse? The Energizer can slow down to 5 seconds, so it can become quite slow. But that's if the sunlight levels are really bad. So on an average year, in average conditions, if the Energizer is installed well, facing towards the sun, so facing south, and it's not shaded by trees, it shouldn't slow down below, we've designed it so it shouldn't slow down below 2.2 seconds. But if it's installed in a poor location, where it might be shaded by trees or in a valley or in a location that gets a lot of heavy fog, then it can slow down to up to 5 seconds. Question, the guarantee, is it also 3 years on the battery? No, sorry, the 3 years is the Energizer. Batteries are excluded by our warranty period. Next question is, the mount for the S17, is it the same as for the S22? Yes, the S17 and the S22 use exactly the same hardware. The plastic underneath is the same and it uses the same mounting as the current S17 product. The difference is we've made the base orange plastic so that it can easily be distinguished. So you can quickly see from a distance that this here with the black top, orange base is the S22, whereas older S17s in the market are black top and a black bottom. The pulse rate management, is it a random function? No, it's not. No, the Energizer pulses at a continuous rate that it adjusts based on the lowest battery voltage over the last day. So if, at 6 o'clock in the morning, obviously that's about the worst time because you've had no sunlight over night time, it's been running. The Energizer measures the battery voltage at about that time and it sets its pulse rate accordingly. So that way it's basically managing the power out versus the power in, so it stays in equilibrium and keeps the battery topped up. The next question. Does the S20, oh, this is a good one, and unfortunately the answer is no. Does the S22 have the same light indicator like the S17, or is it like the S10 and the S16? The S22, I'm not sure if I have connected it. You might be able to see this depending on how well the webcam is. The S22 only flashes red. So it is the same as the S17. It is not the same as the S10 and the S16, which has a green red LED. So it measures the battery voltage and indicates to the user if the battery is okay or not. So the S22 doesn't have the battery low indication. Our hopes are that that function will be one of the most redundant of the product, that we've done enough behind the scenes work and enough smarts with the battery so that the battery will go flat very rarely, and it will be after that 3 to 4, 5 years, and customers will perceive, well, that battery lasted a reasonable time, it's needing replacement. Of course, we've been doing some tests for a number of years now, and if the batteries are stored in an environment where the temperature stays between 10 degrees and 30 degrees Celsius, you can get much more than 3-4 years out of the battery. You can get more like 5 or 6 years out of the battery. But it depends on the environment, and in a battery that's in a hot or in a cold environment, the life of it is reduced significantly no matter how we manage it. Okay. Next question. Will there be camouflage covers in the future for these Energizers? No. At this stage, we're not intending to have camouflage covers for them, mainly because the solar panel needs to be exposed, and so the risk with any camouflage cover is that it could cover part of the solar panel and render it ineffective. And the next one from Emil, the B20 only turning red. Yeah, I've said that about the S22, it is only red. Steve, do you need direct sunlight or is daylight sufficient? Ideally, direct sunlight. If the Energizer is not installed in a place where it can get direct sunlight, perhaps it's around the side of a building, perhaps because of theft or something, just getting sunlight will charge the battery, but it won't be enough to keep the product functioning for long. So you can install it like that. The product will actually work in the dark with no sunlight for for about 3 weeks. Just if the battery is fully charged, you can get 3 weeks use out of it. So if you had it installed in a location where it's not getting direct sunlight, but it is getting some sunlight, you're probably going to extend that 3-week period to maybe be a 4 or 5 week that it's going to continue to work before the battery does go flat. Now, when it goes flat, the Energizer will actually stop pulsing altogether before the battery goes below 40%, so that you're not doing any long-term damage to the battery. And so the Energizer will stay turned off until it's charged the battery back up to a level where it can work again without damaging the battery. I'm going to wrap it up. I've got 2 more questions. Can the battery freeze? I'm not quite sure on the question. Yeah, in temperatures below -10 degrees Celsius, it's really not good for the battery. In temperatures below -20 degrees, the manufacturers give us no recommendations of what the battery can do. So -10 degrees is really the limit for the battery. -10 degrees Celsius. In combination with the ring top post looks good, but it's only 15 centimeters from the ground. This only holds the product, so the ground is where my hand is here, and the solar panel is about here, which is about 15 centimeters. The ideal grass grazing height is about that 15 centimeters. So for farmers that are actively grazing pastures, it should be more than sufficient. If you've installed it around a waterway or around some trees and you've got longer grass that's coming up around your knees that is going to cover the bottom of the solar panel, it can be a bit of a problem, and you may need to use a weed whacker to cut the grass down or similar. Questions. Is the earthing, this is a good one. I'm trying to finish off. There's more questions coming through, and as you can see, I love this stuff. Is the earthing of the ring top post enough for the Energizer? Meaning, can you clip the green terminal of the Energizer onto the ring top post here? So this is the earth stake, only this part here. And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. And our testing, we've found for the S10, you get very satisfactory performance from doing that if the ground is reasonably moist. In dry, rocky ground, no, that's not enough earthing. With the S16, we've found that only using this as the ground is almost a limiting factor. So with the S16, you certainly can do it, but if you wanted to fence a longer distance, you'd be better to use a better earth. So if you bought an S16 and you're only using it for a temporary corral for some horses, by all means, that would be a sufficient earth for the 50 meters or so of fence that you've got. If you wanted to run out a few 100 meters of fence, then you're probably better off to use a decent earth stake. How long does the battery take to charge to full capacity? If it has gone completely flat because someone's hidden it behind a barn or similar, it'll take, in normal sunlight, it'll take 3 to 5 days. So in winter, assume that it's going to take 5 days. In summer, in the sun, it'll take about 3 days to fully charge. Can you use the ring top post for earthing? Yes. Last one. This is the absolute last one, then I'm going to sign off. It's night time here. I need to go home for dinner. After how many months will there be a problem with the battery if it stays in the warehouse? Several months on the shelf. So the question there is, we buy the battery from the manufacturer. It's already a few months old. We put it into the product and ship it to Europe. It sits in their warehouse for a few months, and then it gets shipped to the dealers, where it sits with the dealer for a couple of months before the customer buys it. The battery's a year old. We've factored that in, and about a year to 18 months is that's really what we're targeting for the batteries to be okay. Getting up towards 24 months, 2 years since manufacture with no charge, the batteries are going to start to be at risk. So we've tried to make sure that when the product is connected and turned on, that it won't work if the battery's been flat for that long, and instead the customer hopefully will refer to the user manual where it says if the light flashes red, leave it in the sun for that 3 or 5 days, and that should be able to recover the battery. If it's much longer than 2 years since the battery's been manufactured, then it is at risk. If the battery could have, because batteries have natural leakage, and so they can go flat. Last one from Davey. Sorry, I keep getting, the questions are good. Thanks for these guys. The questions are really good. There's no note in the user manual that on your first use, put outside in 3 or 5 days to charge the battery. We've deliberately omitted that because we're trying to minimize the length of time between the batteries being manufactured to when they're sitting in store. So we're trying to minimize the risk of customers buying it with a flat battery, and also minimize the risk because the product, if the battery is slightly flat, the product might only pulse at a 2.1 second pulse rate for the first day or so while it takes in the sunlight and charges the battery back up so it can pulse at a full fast pulse rate. It was something that customers didn't, it confused customers, and so we wanted to take that onus away from them and just make it work. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks for all the questions. If there's any questions that I've missed or you don't feel that I've answered well enough, feel free to send me or Vincent Stahl, he's our product manager at Gallagher Europe, an email. The emails are, yeah, you should have our email addresses, otherwise get in contact with your local Gallagher rep and they'll be able to help you out. Thanks everyone for signing in, and yeah, feedback in the session in general and how we can improve it for next time would be much appreciated. What you guys want to get out of it and what you thought was good and we should do more of, and what you thought was bad and I should stop doing. Have a good day, and thank you very much.